So welcome to the ES&S Express Vote 6.0.4.1 public demonstration of machines up for certification. Today we're going to be going over the DS200, which has already been certified in previous configurations in New York State. It's just a software update. The DS300, which has not been certified in New York State and is new, as well as the Express Vote XL in both the tabulator and ballot marking device configurations. So same machine, but it has been applied to be approved in two separate configurations. So we'll be going over both of those. We'll start with the 200 and the 300. This is the DS200. This is the DS300. You will notice that they are very, very similar machines. In effect, the 300 is just a more modern, newer version of the 200. It's been a while since the 200 came out. There have been significant advances in, well, computational power. Motherboards are smaller, RAM is cheaper, so you can fit more in the same amount of size. Specifically, the exact same amount of size because the safe that goes with the DS200 is also the safe that goes with the DS300. It fits on the same space. The actual machine itself is this box here. It is powered by a proprietary USB device, which can be found in a locked compartment here. On election day, that can also be sealed by tamper seals to confirm that no one has gone in and removed the proprietary device and replaced it with one of their own. Again, they would need to have access to one of those proprietary USB devices. It's not like you can just put a normal USB in and expect it to work. But there are further security precautions as well. It locks into place here. You have spaces on the sides where, again, you can fit tamper seals to confirm that this box has been attached to this safe since it was deployed from at a county level. Any county's central warehouse, anything like that, to confirm that there has been no tampering with it and that it remains in the configuration it was sent out. They use custom twist keys. So again, no lock. It's completely break-proof, but it's less pickable than a standard key that you could make it for $5 at Allies or Home Depot. Again, DS200, DS300, same sort of machines. You open them up. The poll worker would come into this locked compartment, power it on, and that would get you to this state here. It prints a zero tape for the poll workers to confirm that there are no results on it. That zero tape would be then retained in the records. So if anybody came back and asked, can you prove that there were no votes when you started on election day, you have that zero tape to show there are no results on this machine when it began tabulation. Again, it's an optical scan system, so you are using paper ballots. Paper ballots go into the safe, so you also have the record of paper ballots as well. Those paper ballots are filled out by the voter, and it's basically just a scan of that paper ballot. So the voter fills out their ballot. This one I have overvoted just to show the error that will, it's not an error, it's a message that will pop up to the voter to show that they have an issue that will cause one of their contests to not be fully counted. Feeds into the machine like so. Pops up this message. You have the option to return it. You can take it to your election inspectors, get a new ballot with this one. If you do just want to cast it, because under New York State election law, that is an option available to the voters. They can just hit cast. That ballot drops into the safe. It's been tabulated, all set and good to go. On a standard ballot, where everything is just single votes across the board, or in this case, undervotes, it should just feed immediately in. those results, and the ballot images associated with those results are saved to the memory device. Here, the poll workers would then remove at the end. Same thing with the 200. Again, 200 is just a slightly older version of 300. And as you can tell, there is a slight time difference in processing between the 200 and 300. Again, that is simply because computing advances have made scanning processing faster in the time since the 200 was developed. This should be a benefit to our counties if they move to the 300, because it will allow them to process more voters in the same period of time. Just another one in. So again, these ballots then drop into the lock. Their terminology for these compartments is the safe. It is a locked compartment. Within here, the poll workers would have the keys. They're secured by tamper-evident seals, accessed by bipartisan teams of poll workers. Anytime anyone would actually be handling the ballots. Again, custom locking mechanisms. We have the key in this one just because we were down there this morning. So it opens up here, and you have your ballots. On election day, this would be open. Ballots would fall in here. The poll workers would then, at the end of the night, pull that out and return it to the Board of Elections at the end of the night. Harpoon seals go here and here so that you can record that you have sealed the machine back up, that there is no tampering going on with that you have maintained access to a full record of who was in control of the ballots at any given time. Again, the DS300 is largely the same. Both have functionality for multiple languages. This election is currently configured for English and Spanish because we copied one of our counties that is a English and Spanish county to build the election. So if you were interested in voting and using it in a Spanish configuration, you simply press the button. It takes you to the Spanish instructions, has it right there on the screen for you. If someone walks back up after that, wants to continue in English, just select that language on the bottom. For a city that has multiple different language groups, you would see spreading across the entirety of this bottom screen all the different languages that would be available for that city. Because as we are New York State, as we have New York City with its multiple different language requirements, ES&S is one of those programs that does fulfill the requirements of being able to accommodate all of those different language requirements. So they would all be spreading across here. Quite frankly, we at the board do not have the capability to program in all those different languages, which is why it's not configured in that configuration right now. We are just demonstrating its language functionality at a county that is required to have all those different languages. They would have specific staff who would be trained to do the language translation for those different languages. Before we move on to the express votes, does anyone have any questions specifically in regards to the 200 or the 300? Again, the 200 has already been approved in New York State previous configurations. There are advancements in the 300, but in terms of security, in terms of security seals, in terms of voter processes, there's no real voter process change from the 200 to the 300. It's simply a faster, quicker, more advanced version of the previously approved system.
Hi, how are you?
So up next, we will be going to the Express Vote XL, which has two configurations that have been submitted for this version of ES&S. It is ES&S 6.0.4.1 has both a ballot marking function for the Express Vote XL and a ballot marker with tabulation function for the Express Vote XL. So the voter would be handed one of these slips of paper. That slip of paper would be fed into the machine. This first machine that we'll be demonstrating is the ballot marking device configuration. So again, you have the option to select the language. There's also options to change text size to extra large text, taking you to just single contests, where you go from single contest to single contest to single contest. And change the contrast. You have full color here. You also have a black and white functionality for voter preference. Languages, you can select between the various languages involved in the election. And while I am doing this through the touchscreen, all of this is also able to be done through a tactile controller for voters with limited sight. There is a sip and puff device that can be used for voters who have who are quadriplegic and do not have motor function in that sense. And there's an audio function as well. There are several different configurations that you can use that you can plug into the side of the machine to use for accessibility purposes. So just for purposes of the video, we'll go to large text. The voter goes through, they select their choices.
Okay. I see it.
And then they're brought to a screen where they would review their selections. Once they have reviewed their selections, they would select print and review, or if they were using one of the controllers, there would be an option to move over to the print and review button. You would get either an audio review of your choices or just the print review. So, because this is the ballot marking device configuration, you do not have the ability to cast the ballot on this machine. This is strictly an accessibility function. You can't cast it. It can't do any actual tabulation. So you would need to finish. You then have your printout version of the ballot. These X's here have been included at New York State Board of Elections request, so that you can't add anything as a barcode in those spaces down below here. So you wouldn't be able to, if this printed out and it didn't have it on there, you wouldn't be able to manually add a barcode there because the X would override it. Those barcodes are essentially a tabulation for each contest. If you did have a barcode reader, you would be able to see that. It's strictly another way of tabulating that you can then, when you are doing your paper ballot review, have a quick way of seeing exactly which contest was voted and for who in that contest was voted. This printout can go into both the 300 and the 200. I will feed it into the 300 here. And in the case of the ballot marking device, it is tabulated and stored just like a normal election day ballot. So all set and good to go, goes back with the standard ballot bin at the end of the night on election day. On election day, we don't have it set up because it makes it rather difficult to demonstrate if we can't show you it. But there is a screen that attaches in here, comes up here, and wraps around behind the voter for voter privacy. So the voter walks into the booth, fills out their ballot in privacy. There are lights attached to show additional light on the screen, walks out of the booth once they are done. No one sees how the voter cast their vote. No one has any awareness to it, anything like that. So that is the entirety of the strict ballot marking device function. Up next, we have the tabulator, which is roughly the same machine, except it includes both the ability to act as a ballot marking device, as well as to also tabulate those ballots that were cast on it. So in this functionality, every voter would be voting on the tabulator version of it. Every voter would be going through that process of filling their ballot out on the screen. Load another piece of paper in here. And again, starting your voting session is very similar to what you saw on the ballot marking device. Again, same options with text size, same options with contrast, same options with language. Voter goes through, fills out their ballot, even has the functionality for write-in. Voter can write in whoever they want here. And selects print and review. Prints their ballot. And noticeably, instead of having it return your ballot to you, it has the option to cast your ballot. Voter select cast your ballot. Selects cast. And that ballot has now been tabulated. It is stored in the ballot compartment of this machine. In the back of this machine, I apologize for the cords. Oh, I can't do this because it's still on. Apologies. So just getting a further look at the guts of this machine.
Remember that plug?
No, I don't think that's the same. On the back here, there is the compartment that is where all ballots are stored because they are flat pack skinny ballots. They take up significantly less space than a traditional full paper ballot. So they fall directly into this compartment. Inspector detaches this compartment at the end of the night, sends it immediately back to the Board of Elections. It has security seal locations on it, here, and another one on the front that you cannot see from this direction. And that goes back to whatever Board of Elections is using this machine. You maintain ballot custody. You check the seals when they come back. They're all set. They're good to go. You open it up, drop your ballots into whatever you're using for larger scale storage at your Board of Elections. That's something we leave up to the Board of Elections. Be all set and good to go. And then, as we covered at the beginning, for all of these machines, you would unlock the machine, take out the memory stick, that proprietary USB device, return that USB device, feed it into the system. That's where you get your initial results, which would then be audited for a 3% audit. The security functions on these are slightly different from what you have on the 300 and the 200. It's up here. You'd use tamper-proof seals here and here. You'd still have that security key there that would be under control of the inspectors. And you'd pop it open, pull out your device, all set and good to go. Return it in some sort of secure section. Any questions on the ExpressVote XL in either of its configurations? We have discussed for accessibility groups, if they want to come in and have a full demo of full accessibility capabilities in any of its various accessibility configurations, that is absolutely something that we would be willing and happy to do. Because that's not machine functionality, that's accessibility functionality. And that would be, we want to have a larger space, set up the specific devices that they are interested in using, and have those up and ready. They can walk through an entire voting process from start to finish with it, be all set and comfortable with the process because they know their needs best. And we can show you the controllers, but we'd be showing you the controllers from our perspective, and we'd rather get their input to make sure that their needs are being met. So we would be more happy and willing to set up full accessibility demonstrations with any interest groups that are around and interested. Any questions on the functionality of the ExpressVote XL in either the ballot marking format or the tabulation format?
I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
Do they allow overvotes as well?
They do. Again, this one. Feed this in.
To vote using audio assistant. To vote using audio assistance. Press any key on the accessible voting console. To vote using audio assistance. Press any key on the accessible voting console.
I apologize, I misspoke. I had forgotten. You can't overvote on this. I was thinking of the other
When you mark
tiers
the
of
ballot.
this will prevent you from overvoting in its use. I apologize. That was my mistake.
Is this the 950?
That's the 950, the central counter.
The one he's at?
No,
Oh,
this
it's
is,
another one.
This is an
Oh,
express
okay.
option.
to be clear,
Yeah.
these are the same devices. One is set up to be, like a BMD. If you're familiar with the ES&S product, one is set up to be a BMD, just a pen to mark the ballot for someone that may need assistance, whereas the other one is set up to just be a tabulator. They're both accessible, but one is specifically only going to mark the ballot for you and not do any tabulation, and the other one, like I said, is giant pen. The 950 is a central counter that we're going to get to in a second.
And that's ExpressVote.
These are both
So they all lead with ExpressVote. It's the ExpressVote XL. Yes. So again, you can undervote because you can always undervote. You don't need to vote contest. You can't vote. So again, my apologies.
And it didn't count. You would have shipped that.
Misspoke there.
I'm frankly surprised that that one's even being considered, the one that allows overvoting.
Well, if the DS200 and the 300, it notifies you. That's what Colin showed you in the beginning, and it asks you, do you want to return your ballot and fix it, or do you want to cast? Because some people may just say, I don't really care about that race for something on ballot, or even a ballot, but they have that option, and it just won't count that race because it doesn't know voter intent or anything like that.
So it won't actually tabulate the two votes?
No.
If it-
It will
Okay,
count,
so you can cast
those
it.
two machines will count everything else but the race that had an
And
overvote, or
Thank you.
races.
So
Okay.
it will count it as an overvote.
Okay.
So for audit purposes, if you're going through and doing your audit, you see that it has an overvote, you will also have an overvote on the machine results that say this voter overvoted in this context.
Got it. Okay.
Morning, I'm Blaise Bryant with the New York Association on Independent Living Research. Any chance I would be able to, go through and kind of play with the voting functionality of the machines, because I need to be able to provide a recommendation to our association as to what machine to steer, provide recommendations and go from there.
So that, going back to what I was mentioning, what we would like to do is, for that, we would like to set up a full accessibility demonstration with your group, where you would be able to go through and use the various different accessibility functions in whichever format you would like.
But we're not saying you can't,
Yeah.
check these things out, but that's not what this demo is. We are going to have a specific demo for that purpose.
So, okay, because I work from home and I came from Troy with the hope that I'd be able to check this stuff out.
You can.
Okay, very good. Thanks.
Going to move the 950 up.
Over in terms of new submissions, this is the Express Vote 950. This is a central count system. So in terms of voters, as a voter, you're likely never going to see this machine. However, if you come to a board of elections to observe an absentee count or an affidavit count, things like that, that's where you run into a central count system. Central count systems are used to tabulate ballots that are sent to the board of elections. So largely in New York State, those are absentee ballots. So you have your absentee ballots for a district, you feed them through, it tabulates it, and you feed those results into your system. Central counts are pretty straightforward. You have your batch of ballots. You are the election workers for a county. You open these up when they came in as absentees. These are nice and straight. On a county, you'd probably have them all folded up because that's how absentee ballots come back. But there isn't really any issue with anything like that. You hit the start button. It runs the ballot through. It completes the tabulation. If you had 10 ballots, it counted 10 ballots. And that's the entirety of the central count system. You're just running ballots through. It's tabulating for absentee ballots, affidavit ballots, those ballots that are counted specifically at a board of elections. You have fewer security features just because this is a machine that should be behind bipartisan locked doors at all times. It is secure in your system, and quite frankly, you're not retaining the ballots where they're sitting on the machine. They're going back to where you are securely storing those ballots. The only reason you have them out is to put them through the machine. You take them out, you put them through the machine, you put them right back in secure storage.
With that being said, there are bipartisan controls, there are security seals, there are security keys that are in the custody of the BOE staff.
One staff member can't just come out and use it to engage in some nefarious purpose. You do need to have a full team of staff to use it. It's just that there are fewer security controls on the ballots themselves because they're not intended to stay with the machine for any period of time. So that's why they're out
No ballot
like
box.
there. Any questions on the 950?
What's currently certified for tabulating?
For
The,
ES&S?
450 and the 850. They're very similar to this, but it's kind of a la carte based on the size of your county and how many absentees you're going to be processing. The 450 is a little bit smaller, and I forget the time in which it can process ballots. But the 950 is kind of like, the super powered heavy duty, latest and greatest. I think it's an upgrade to the 850, and it's a little bit faster, a little bit smoother. It's quieter too. That's something that's nice. But there's currently 2 versions that are certified, and this will be the 3rd version. There's the 450, the 850, and now the 950.
From an accessibility standpoint, what's the difference between the three machines?
These aren't accessible machines. These are machines used for central counts.
Wait a minute.
The voter will never use these.
When you say these, since I can't see
So
what you're doing.
the 950 is a central count machine. It could be used by someone with accessibility needs to tabulate ballots if they were an employee of the Board of Elections, but it's not like you don't have the full audio functionality of a BMD or anything like that because it's not designed for that purpose. Again, a voter, an individual voter, would never actually be using the 950. The 950 is for batches of ballots that come into the Board of Elections.
Okay, so 950 is internal then.
Yes.
So the 450, the 850, and the 950 are all central counters for internal purposes.
Yes.
So then what's the number that voters like myself would be using?
So that voters like yourself would either be using the Express Vote XL,
Okay.
or in conjunction with the Express Vote XL, Express Vote XL with a DS200 or a DS300, depending on the configuration that county was using. If they're just using it as a ballot marking device, you would be using the Express Vote XL in conjunction with a DS200 or DS300. If they're using it as a ballot marking device and tabulator, you would just be using the Express Vote XL.
So the BMD, the ballot marking device and the tabulator would be the 200. That's the all-in-one.
So the Express Vote XL as a tabulator would be the all-in-one. The DS200. So it is. You were slightly after the beginning of the presentation.
Yeah, I can't because there were transportation snags. I'm sorry.
So the DS200 is currently approved in New York State. It's approved as the DS200 with a prior version of the ballot marking device. So a voter like yourself would come in, use the ballot marking device, take that ballot, take it to the DS200. The 300 is just basically it's a faster computer version of the 200. It's virtually identical, so you'd still be doing the same thing. It's the Express Vote is in this situation replacing that older version of BMD. So you'd be using the Express Vote as a BMD, taking it to either the DS200 or the DS300, inserting your ballot into the machine, and being all set good to go that way. The other configuration option is the Express Vote XL as a full tabulator. It is both an accessible voting device and a tabulator. So you use that one to just simply use the accessible functions, fill out your ballot, and then, like all other ballots, it would cast that ballot into that same machine.
That to me would make the most sense for everyone, for both on the state and county level, because I live in Rensselaer County and I can tell you they don't know what they're doing. They don't want to act like they know what they're doing. So
Rensselaer County does not use ES&S. They are a Dominion County.
they need to move that needle, but that's a different story. Because I had some very bad voting experiences in the county the 2 times I voted there. So the XL is kind of the all-in-one.
Correct.
Okay. Thank you, because we're just trying to wrap my head around that stuff.
So, and again, the XL has been submitted in 2 separate configurations. So there's the XL that is the tabulator, that is the all-in-one. There's also the XL configuration where it is strictly a ballot marking device that will be used in conjunction with a 200 or 300. So both of those configurations are in this 6.0.4.1 submission.
And both are accessible. And in both modes.
All right. Well, yeah, I look forward to playing with it when
All right.
opportunity presents itself.
So we lost someone, but do we have any other questions before we pause the filming on this and move to any playing that people might want to do